Hello, Steve. Got your brake booster ready to test. Turned out great. Let's go over a few things. Got your rebuilt air filter assembly right here. Not only does it filter the air, but it also has a poppet right here and one underneath here that you can't see. And those rubbers degrade and don't hold vacuum and make your life difficult. Your large vacuum diaphragm has been replaced. This one had collapsed. Got your check valve replaced. Let's see. In terms of installation, when you're installing your high pressure line right here, your output line, be sure to hold hold the slave cylinder with a big wrench like this when you're cranking down on it, because it takes quite a bit of pressure to seal this off, because you got all your high pressure coming out this end. So use a wrench to secure this slave cylinder so it doesn't overcome, so this tightening torque here does not overcome the holding power of this jam nut. Now then, let's see, we've got this is your input down the bottom, output, obviously vacuum. Up here is a port, a test port that you can use anytime you want to check your booster's function. All you gotta do is put a vacuum gauge in here and start the car, and as it idles, push on the brake pedal and watch the vacuum gauge go down to 0. And this hose right here is attached to this gauge up here, this vacuum gauge. And we got 2 vacuum gauges. Both are going to read the vacuum produced by my machine. This gauge is going to stay constant and not go anywhere. And this gauge is going to go to 0. The more the booster is applied, the closer it gets to 0. And then when it reaches 0, the booster is fully activated. Over here, we've got our input hydraulic and output. These 2 gauges are tied together. This gauge is going to go up and max out, and this gauge follows and reads final input pressure, which is a function of what my machine can produce. Output. These 2 gauges are tied together. This gauge goes up, reads, maxes out, and then we'll read final output pressure on this gauge over here. Now then, the booster, without any vacuum going into it, the booster is inert. The vacuum, the brake fluid just goes in the input and goes out the output side, and the booster is inert, doesn't do anything. And that's one of the features of these cars, so that if you do lose your vacuum for any reason, you do not lose braking, but the braking becomes harder. And I'll show you how the booster works. Input pressure is going to be the same as output pressure. So we turn our valve. Alright, we got 350 here, 350 here, 350 approximately there. Now we're going to hit with the vacuum. Booster is a 2-to-1 ratio. We're going to be 350 here and about 700 there. And since I make seating 350, it's going to go higher than 700 here. Okay, and while we are under pressure, we're going to check for leaks. Our leak points are weep hole down here, jam nut right here, bleed screws. Everything is doing fine. So here's the operation all at one. Okay, got you a good booster. And as I mentioned, this is a weep hole. And this is your first indication that there's a problem internally in the booster when this stack of seals inside here starts to leak. It leaks out here first before it gets into the vacuum chamber. So if you ever see it weeping brake fluid, you need to get this addressed. Anyway, got you a great booster, and I'll get this out to you. Thank you very much for sending it to me.